That'll do.
All righty, folks. Here we are sitting down with Thermohelix. What do you know? What do you know? How are you doing today, Sean?
Pretty good. How you guys doing?
Most
Good,
excellent.
Nice.
Had a heck of a weekend. We're just thawing out here. Have you dealing with the cold and wet?
It's not too bad down here. I'm down here in the Bay Area in California, so it's expensive, but it's it's kind of like perfect all year round. It's a little cold, it's a little wet, but not anything like maybe what you guys are dealing with.
Right, just a little colder than normal, and probably some extra rain.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it was odd for us as well. You know, I'm a bit further north than you, and in Oregon here, and we'll get some snow every once in a while, but we had like 4 inches of ice. And,
wow,
it was bad. People up here don't know what to do in it.
Yeah,
it's just terrible.
Yeah, it's the same down here. Once it rains a little bit, there's accidents everywhere. People are still driving like crazy.
Well, if people don't know, Thermohelix is a brand of an induction coil. Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, it's like induction sterilizers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've used them in the past, and they're really handy for quickly heating up your scalpels and your tools. And man, I've seen some cool ones from you lately that look like you just like stick your punch in there, and the thing fits in there like a glove and heats up. That seems pretty handy too.
Yeah. I've it's been kind of like, well, it started off as like a DIY thing. You know how we all used to share our DIY techs, and
right.
Yeah.
So I saw on Reddit on Myco Bazaar, some dude named Towley just posted just the just kind of like the little induction coil by itself, and then he didn't have a link or anything, and I just Googled it, found it on Amazon, and back then they're a bit cheaper, and I just shared it with a couple of buddies, made one, shared it, and then it just took off because no one was doing it on Instagram back then at all. So it's really surprised me. Like within a couple seconds, I got the scalpel like glowing hot.
Nice.
Yeah.
I had one that worked okay, and I don't know if I just had cheap blades or whatnot, or had a really bright light. I just didn't quite get enough glow out of the one I had, and so like being early in my mycological career, I was like, man, I got to be over cautious here. I need to heat that thing to where it's like it's gonna warp. I heat it up so much.
yeah, that's kind of the common thing. It's not like using a torch, where it gets it like glowing like super hot, and then also if you're in a fully lit area, it can be hard to see. Like on some of those hot box models I have with the tube, and it's got the LED by the tube lighting the tube up. Some people have a hard time seeing that with all the light going on.
Oh yeah.
But it's more of just at this point, it's like just trust the process. There's so many people and even big names using them, so we know it works. Yeah.
And I think a lot of it too is like everything else. It's all about your process, and if you really want to eliminate those vectors, get yourself 2 scalpels or 2 punches, and you alternate. You have one sitting in there heating, and you know that it's hot as hell. You wouldn't stick your finger in there.
Right. Yeah. Oh fuck, I forget his name. Jesse something. Do you remember Jesse?
Oh, like the Jungle Pack Jesse guy?
No,
on Instagram.
He was out in Colorado, and he started a business, and he did kind of well for a little bit, and then I don't know, something happened. Oh fuck, I forget his name. But he made a video where he was filming and then ended up touching the scalpel after pulling it out because he didn't think it was that hot, and it burnt the shit out of his fingers.
Yeah. I think I'd have started with touching the agar, maybe. That's just me.
Yeah, it gets hot.
Yeah, they definitely do. I think we just get so used to hitting it with a torch, and especially those of us that dab. And seeing that red hot, it just sets something in our brain or something. It's an addiction.
Yeah, probably.
But you keep lights on there like that. I bet you that that might satisfy our need too. Plus, it's very handy. You know,
Yeah.
the how do yours work? Do you put the item in and it heats up? Is it always running? What's the process there?
I use a latching push button, and because so like early on when I first learned how to wire the button in, it was like on Amazon where it gives you like suggested buys.
Yeah.
Well, it had the correct um power supply and then a button. Well, the button's a momentary button where you have to hold down the whole time. And when I started making them, a lot of people didn't really want to touch it. You know, they just wanted to like turn it on and then touch it as minimally as possible. So I started using the latching push button where you hit it once and it stays on until you hit it again.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I think the one I had seen was similar. You had to touch it it would do a cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and you could get like a foot pedal, you know. But
Yep.
I liked that that you
Yeah,
just click it on.
the foot switch was like kind of like an alternative. Like before I started wiring the button, I found these little 12-volt 12-volt motion sensors, and then so you just wave your hand by it, and then you could set the time and the duration, and then so I'd usually set for like 10 to 15 seconds, and then it shut off automatically. But it had a bit of a drawback because it can only handle so many amps. Like even though the power supplies are only 6 amps, the way the induction coils work, if you put something in there, the larger the object is or the longer you leave it in there, it kind of creeps up on the amps and the watts used and everything. And so the sensor, if you held a scalpel in there too long, like say if you couldn't tell it was very hot, it would burn the sensor out. It would fry the little component in there, or if someone used an agar punch, it would fry the little component in there. So it's kind of defective. And someone else was making the foot switch, and so I got a lot of people like, hey, why don't you do the foot switch? And then I was fighting it for a while, you know, and I finally figured it out, and then I finally later figured out how to do it to where they're independent. So the button can be used by itself if you don't have the foot switch connected, or you could plug it in, and then the foot switch works and then lights up the light and everything.
Right. Yeah, it's not like we're production facilities that know how to do all this stuff. You gotta
I'm just a
that.
high school dropout. I have no experience in any of this. You know, I like you said, I was in construction for a while. And then got into the cannabis industry, and that's kind of when I found mushrooms too, which is kind of set me on my path. Yeah, I was actually in the plumbers union, and I've been working with my dad for years before that, and I quit smoking weed for like 2 years, and they never tested me. So I was on vacation with my wife before we got married. It's like our anniversary. And I got stoned once. And then a whole long story, but anyway, when I got back to school, they popped me.
Of course.
And then so that's kind of ended up when I found mushrooms again when I got laid off. And then, you know, got into the cannabis industry, applied for my dream job, and then that was cool. And then started growing mushrooms, and then stumbled onto these things. And now it's just become just a part of life now. It was never meant to really be a business. It was just like just kind of like a tech sharing. And then so people that didn't have the tools or time, I just charge them like $20 to make one, and then they pay for shipping.
Okay.
$20 on top of the parts. So back then it was like $40 to make the whole original model. And then I charge like $20 for my labor, and then like 15 or 20 for shipping.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's how I think a lot of micro businesses get built is
Yep.
people unintentionally have a byproduct or they just want to share what they're doing with
Yep.
everybody. And,
That's the right
it's
way.
really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's nice to see. And, myself, I've been in it for a while too. And like I hit a kind of a point, I think, where you forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And recently have started to giving back a lot more education wise instead of just trying to do business, and it
Yeah.
seems more rewarding. So
Yeah. It is rewarding to be able to give back. I really like. I haven't done my own giveaway in a long time. It's a kind of a nightmare to scroll through, and then like some people tag multiple times, so it's kind of a pain in the
right.
ass.
Yeah.
But I really like being a part of other people's giveaways, and like especially like the Christmas giveaway with Michael Willie. That's always fun.
There you go. Yeah, I'm the same way, but I've taken to finding ways to put it on the website. Websites work pretty good. The problem is that things like raffles are considered gambling, and so
Oh,
like if you set any of that up, if you use that word in your posts on social media, it will flag it, and they can cancel your post, flag your account.
oh, that's wild.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
want to be the only ones making money off of it. But also, I mean, there is the element that gambling is a real addiction,
yeah,
and that there are
Yeah.
people that will just buy stuff to have that thrill, just like all of us here, at one point or another probably had something we wanted to get out of our system. And that's kind of what brought us to this medicine, or at least
right.
a good portion of us have, and
Yep.
so it's the same concept. It's just a different leg of that same issue we all have.
Yeah.
But we're all in the right place. We got the medicine.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's funny. Is like I rarely take any psychedelics these days. Back when I started growing them, especially back when I was younger, I was eating them all the time. Actually, the first place I ever took mushrooms was at school.
Yeah.
And I remember at lunchtime, I was just eating stuff out of a bag, and one of my classmates was like, "What are you eating?" And I was like, "Shrooms." And we were
Well,
playing.
it's not poop.
Yeah, and we were playing volleyball. Was like I was at a continuation school, so like the only thing that we liked to play was volleyball, so we could like spike it on each other and just be able to hit the ball real hard. But I remember we would rotate, and then I got it to the net, and then I just remember thinking, it's like, fuck, that looks like a giant spider web. And I got close, I'm like all touching it. I was like, oh fuck, I'm in a fucking spider web. And then someone's like, Sean, what are you doing? I was like, oh shit, I'm at school.
Oh yeah, I gotta wake up now.
Yeah.
We all have a story like that,
Yeah.
Mine, I was sitting on a couch with one of my buddies, and I literally was just like, pretty sure my head's on fire. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure my head's on fire. He's like, it's fine. We're good. But it's on fire. Don't
yeah. Somehow I know I'm okay, but not okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like to dose. I microdose now, and it really helps. But I use silly sugar, and so it's really easy to accurately dose because it's a pure psilocybin.
Is that like an extract?
Yeah, it's made similarly to what you do with like alcohol cannabis extract for making sugar and salt. There's a gal. How the Muse Found Magic, aka Dr. Strange Duck, a friend of mine, that she does that and makes all kinds of cool stuff like bath salts and topicals and things I won't mention that go places to relieve pain that you don't know people have.
Yeah.
But good stuff that you don't think there would be uses for this. Like I didn't know that you could even use it topically. But apparently, psilocybin does work really well topically. And she, in fact, includes other fungi in there, like the the medicinal type and other elements. Like that's the thing with the sugar is it actually helps you uptake it a little bit better too.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, one of my buddies
body.
that I used to work with at my I worked at a place called Darkart Nursery. It's a cannabis clones nursery out in Oakland, and one of my old coworkers works at a extraction facility out there. And then that's probably the same thing you're talking about, because he brought me this pure psilocybin powder or whatever. I got those SiliQ tests, but he wanted me to test it, but they end up it says the suggested use time, and then I let it go, and then it turned kind of like a yellow, so I'm not sure if it's still good or not.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they work either, but typically with reagents you have a specific time frame to look at it. And I would guess something like a pure extract like that, you would just end up with the darkest color that would be on the scale. They probably wouldn't even have, a real way to measure it. Because if you're really pulling pure psilocybin crystal, then that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I think they do. I mean, that's the thing with recently there's been a lot of really intelligent people brought in, a lot of professionals from the scientific community and the cannabis community and the edible folks. And there's a lot of stuff they brought into that community that can be used here.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool.
Yep.
That same gal, she makes the sugar, but she turns it into cotton candy. So you literally have a cotton candy dose. Like, how cool awesome. Is that, dude?
Yeah. That's badass.
Man, some of you guys are so lucky. Thermohelix, I live in Georgia.
Okay.
Over on the other side of the country. So I can't have weed. I can't have spores. I can't have nothing. Like I'm purely a gourmet guy.
Okay.
I did when I was younger, like college days, I did mess around with some psilocybin, have some good times, but had to put those behind me because, you get serious with a business, that's something you got to do.
Yeah.
If it applies in your state, you know what I mean? Like, I was telling Matt, I've mentioned this like 5 times, but less than an hour from me, over 60 people got arrested for an eighth.
Wow.
Of weed. Wow. So it's like, you got to be double, triple careful here. You can't even play with it at all. If you do, and you say the word mushroom outside, you're taking a risk.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's one thing that people need to kind of keep in mind, is like, it's still illegal for weed. Like, weed's not legal yet. I mean, there's still, it's not happening very often, but there's still dispensaries getting busted. There's still grows getting busted, and then once a couple places decriminalize mushrooms, everyone's like, oh, fuck, I'm making a website and I'm going to sell everything.
Oh, yeah. I love it when people tell me mushrooms are legal in Oregon. I'm like, well, yes and no. I mean, they are for a price, and that is good. That's definitely a good medicinal outlet. But they think, oh, I can go in the corner and buy mushrooms. Like, no, that's just been decriminalized. It's still illegal. You will get a ticket if they don't like you, and they will still use it against you in court if they don't like you.
Yeah. Did they decriminalize like everything in Oregon to a degree?
Not quite everything. Some of the things like I think the Schedule 1s or whatever I don't know the schedules, but the things like heroin and methamphetamine. Well, I think methamphetamine was, but there's a few that are not. It's Washington State that has completely just, and I don't know if it's the whole state. It might just be that Seattle area.
Yeah.
No, it's not going well.
About that. I thought Portland did too.
They may have, and it may be that Multnomah County. Like so I live down by Salem or south of Salem, kind of here in the sticks, and we're right on the edge of the different political sides on all those thought processes. Do we do this? Do we do that? And I just kind of do the mushroom thing, man.
I
don't care about that crap.
Yeah, we do our own thing regardless of what they say we could do.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything else.
Over there in Georgia, it's pretty sketchy. My cousin moved to Alabama from Nevada, but Nevada was still pretty strict with everything. when he was living there. Yeah, they don't play around too much either.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that they're getting better everywhere. You know, it's really hard to have such passion with this stuff and have to meter that, you know, just because you're worried about what other people think around you.
Yeah.
What is the state of fungus and whatnot in Cali? You know, I know that like from the outside perspective, people again think that it's legal there in a lot of places.
Yeah, and I believe Oakland and Santa Cruz were the first to decriminalize. I mean, maybe even in the country, or maybe it's Colorado. Colorado usually does everything before we do. At least we try first. I remember when I went to a school called Oxycodone, and that was when they were trying to get weed decriminalized out here in Oakland. But there's a weird gray area. I think it's like Measure Z or something that Arnold Schwarzenegger enacted a long time ago. That Oakland has these legal, almost like speakeasies. I forget what they're called, but as an adult, like you got to be, I think, 21 or older to go into them, and they can't advertise, but you can go in there and buy weed. And there's also these gray markets called sesh, where people go and they sell weed and mushrooms and all kinds of stuff. So
interesting. Yeah, I've heard something about that. I didn't know what it was called, but
yeah,
somebody told me about that, where they just went down to California and went to this like a farmer's market, but it wasn't a farmer's market.
Yeah, they're kind of sketchy. They're in some. I've never been to one, but I used to offload quite a bit to a guy that would go sell it at sesh and stuff like that. And so I kept myself separate from the selling of everything, which was great for a while. But the market out here got completely flooded. Like once things got decriminalized, everyone started growing mushrooms and thinking it was legal.
Right.
And jumping
and then you're saturated with crappy mushrooms, no doubt too. You know.
Yep. And then you still got people that have been around for a long time that still are doing it, and they still charge quite a bit. But I just don't. I rarely grow anymore. I rarely take mushrooms anymore. I do every once in a while. I take like a microdose if I make some capsules, but I'm trying to get back into it. Just I want to get into like exotics and maybe bring back some of the stuff I was working on before.
Yeah. And, there's some real challenges out there now that I've been out of it with the whole growing thing for some time. You know, probably 2 years now. I got to get back on that horse and see what I can do now.
Yeah, even like Andrew was saying, get into gourmets. One of my first ones, it's still my favorite one to ever grow, is lion's mane. I love that stuff. It tastes good, it smells good. Supposedly it's good for your brain.
Yeah, definitely. I took some before this episode, and I take some every day.
Nice.
I actually take 5 mushroom, but lion's mane is where I started, and that makes a big difference. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, it's actually one I have a local variety from that grows on my dad's tree out here.
Oh, that's cool.
And so we try and fruit that.
That's growing in a grow bag right now. Your version, my local version, and 2 others as well.
Nice. So I wonder what happens if you pair up those with commercial varieties, kind of like what they've been doing with reinvigorating the psilocybin. You know, I wonder if you couldn't do that with, get some really nice producing commercial lion's mane and take your wild and mix it and get you something even better.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting.
That's my plan, but I want to do it with the heat tolerant one. I want to find the diversity with the heat tolerant one a little bit, because I might be able to find. They're finding some now that stay pink through maturity. They're finding all kinds of interesting phenotypes these days.
That's cool.
Yeah, you need one that likes to be choked out, that can grow in the tub and not turn into spaghetti. Even though I kind of think that would be good. Like, if you could repeat that all the time, that might be a good food additive. Like,
it could be, especially like in like soups or something, instead of just the whole chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got good flavor and texture.
I had those grow bottles. You ever seen those plastic mushroom grow bottles?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen those.
I had bought a few cases on eBay. They were used, and then I had a Martha tent, and I just flooded that thing. I think I got some sawdust spawn from Michael Mentor, who was Mike Tyson back then, and I just like transferred that and made a bunch of grow bottles, and then put that in my Martha. I had no idea how much those things actually sporulate. Like that thing, it looked like someone had sprayed that Christmas paint all on the inside of my Martha.
The Christmas snow.
Yeah,
I remember that stuff.
It was such a mess. I had to throw it away. A lot of them end up spaghetting out because I put too many in there. So there was too much CO2, I guess, in the setup, and I didn't have a fan in there. But that was pretty wild. Like some of them were like just Medusa monsters.
Yeah, and you got to be careful with the spores too. One of my buddies, he had like an enclosed room for growing, and he kept going in there, and more than once his fan and ventilation kicked on and stirred up the spores while he was in there, and he ended up getting spore lung and toxic pneumonia.
Oh shit!
Oh wow!
Yeah, you especially oysters. You've got to be, if you're mass producing oysters, you've got to be really fucking careful.
I think I have seen that on some of the videos of people growing gourmets that you can get lung issues from the spores.
Yeah.
I think his was like a
experience similar too with the psilocybin. If you get to doing enough of them in an enclosed area, heck, even just the contamination. Breathing in the occasional contaminated box airs. Smells like ass. I mean, it can't be that good for you.
No, yeah, that stuff's nasty. Yeah, my mom actually got a sinus infection from Aspergillus or Aspergillus.
Oh yeah,
because it's everywhere. It's always in the air, and somehow it ended up taking hold, and I think she had to get surgery to get it removed.
Yeah, I've had similar. I got weird sinuses, so like you can get. Like your sinus goes all the way up in here. If you have a really narrow spot in there, like you can get infections that just hang out in there underneath your eye, and you won't even know it until something breaks free, and then you're like, all of a sudden, oh, my face hurts.
Yeah.
Stop telling me terrifying things, Matt.
Yeah, well, at least you're not like me. I'm allergic to like literally everything. I have what's called non-allergic rhinitis. Which is a fancy way of saying anything that's small enough to fit in the holes in your nose that would receive allergens causes an allergic reaction in me.
Oh, yeah. I actually used to have really bad allergies growing up and really bad asthma as a kid. And so every year, like springtime, and then especially like later in the summer was worse when everything would dry up. I would end up being hospitalized and have to be on like the hospital nebulizer thing because my at-home one didn't work anymore. But I guess at some point I kind of grew out of it a little bit, and I don't really get allergies too much anymore, which is kind of weird because my grandma, before she passed away, my dad and my wife, none of them used to really have allergies. And then at some point, maybe like 8 years ago, they all started kind of getting it when I stopped getting it. So it's kind of weird. Like, oh, you guys are dying? I'm fine.
Yeah, I had their experience where basically it was about 6 years ago. I had something that occurred, and all of a sudden I'm allergic to everything. I didn't know it though. I was allergic to wheat. So like I'm eating sandwiches and pot pies and pizza, and just feeling like I'm dying. Didn't know why. Turns out I was allergic to like a half dozen things that we encounter in every single day life in our houses. So.
Yeah. Actually, recently within the last 15 years, or maybe it's like 20 years. It's sometime around when I was about 18 or 19, I started developing a reaction to cashews.
Interesting.
And it just gives me like these bumps on my lips, and nothing like too bad. It doesn't make my throat close up or anything. And recently, me and my wife, we didn't notice there's cashews, but we got some kind of Asian trail mix at the store. and it had cashews, but I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna eat it anyway. And then I didn't have any problems, but we had the little bag because we worked together at a gelato place, and I had the munchies real bad, and I didn't have anything left on our last break, so I went to her locker, and it's like the last little bit of that bag of nuts, and all I had was some peanuts in there and then a couple cashews. And this was like, I don't know, last week, and I said fuck it, but I actually did end up getting like a little bit of reaction. Luckily it's not too bad, but I can definitely feel it, like if I have something spicy or something with a lemon on it, it kind of like burns.
Yeah, that's no good. Fortunately, I don't have like the typical throat swell reaction.
Yeah.
My internal organs swell up instead, and I just feel like somebody kicked the shit out of me.
I think that's what I get too. Yeah. I mean,
people are like, "Oh, so you have a food sensitivity?" I'm like, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, it hurts like hell. I won't die, but
yeah.
Yeah, I'm only allergic to one thing, and it doesn't come up in everyday life, but it kind of just sucks. I can't really take any painkillers that are have opiates in them. Like I can't have what's the one that starts with a D?
Maybe Dilaudid is one of them that they use in a hospital anyway.
I can't remember the name of it, but they gave me I split my eyebrow and they gave me this painkiller so they could put stitches in, and my heart rate dropped to like 16.
Holy shit.
It was bad. So they were just like, well, he never gets painkillers again. If his leg breaks, I guess he'll just have a fucking broken leg.
Yeah.
Right. That's okay. I think they're overrated. They the worst pain I ever had was kidney stones, and like they gave me everything. It started with morphine, and the way I rate it is morphine gave me about 30 seconds where I was like, okay, cool, I don't feel too bad. Dilaudid gave me about 5 minutes of like, okay, I'm okay. But when they hit me with the anti-inflammatory, I was good.
Oh yeah,
permanently. Like why they didn't just start there, I don't know. But
that's what it was. Codeine.
Codeine. Okay, yeah, that's a pretty popular one. You get that in cough medicine if you're not careful.
Yep. Yeah, I never got the hype on that. I've gotten it when I was sick, and I was like, maybe I'll try it. A little extra dose of that. No, just sleep.
Yeah. No, I think it's the same effect that people have with Xanax. You have to beat the sleep thing, and apparently, if you can beat the sleep thing, it's fun. But it just puts me to sleep. Like if it's possible for me to fight it, I don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah, back when I was young and dumb, more of my choice was like stimulants and stuff like that. I never really liked. I mean, I like indica because it helps me sleep, but really don't like to get. I mean, these days I really don't like taking much anyway, But some caffeine. That's back when I worked at Darkart, some caffeine in the microdoses definitely kind of hit like I'd done some stimulants, but in a better way.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I used some of that, like that Mio Energy crap one time in some of my gummies because I didn't have enough flavor in it, and I noticed the same thing. People loved it. They were like, "Holy cow, dude! Like, I'm tripping, but I feel like doing backflips." Like, what? All right, well, I'll keep that in mind. Lion's mane too, if you had lion's mane.
I need to back up. You're saying that you had Mio water and you didn't have enough flavor, so you put edible gummies like THC gummies in it and shook it up?
No. So the other way around. So I was making gummies and I taste tested the gummy liquid, and it was like, it kind of tastes like ass a little bit like mushrooms. So I'm like, all right, what do I got to stick in there? And it was powder or that. And I figured, well, the liquid will go into the gelatin better.
Yeah.
Because at that time I just used
that makes a lot more
Jello.
sense. For some reason, I pictured you with a water bottle, like putting the gummies in it after it already had some Mio, and being like, "You're gonna get fucked up," and just like shaking the water bottle.
There was a drink like that in the 90s. Was it Orbits? Something like that. They had little chunks. I used to call it like loogie chunks. That's what it seemed like to me, like somebody spitting my drink.
Yeah.
But people liked it. It was little tiny gelatin balls like the size of BBs, and they would float down like a lava lamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gross.
Kind
of like the boba tea.
Yeah.
But not little fine ones.
I'm not a fan of boba at all. I don't like any kind of weird slimy balls in my mouth.
Right? I know. I bought one of those thinking, oh, well, everybody loves it. It must be good. And I didn't realize the whole concept was that there were balls in the bottom that suck up the straw. I saw the balls. I thought it was like flavor. And the straw that it wouldn't go up it, so I could just drink it. And I'm sitting here, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
like no, what just
like
happened? I feel violated.
Yeah, and then that feels like your mouth too.
Yeah, some of them do. Yeah, mine were like these solid, gross ones. So.
The vibe I got from them was that I took a straw and stuck it in muddy water, and a bunch of tadpoles just swam up my straw while I was drinking.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just I'm good.
Yeah. My wife loves it. It's like one of her favorite things to get if like we go near a boba place. She's like, oh, I gotta get the boba.
Well, I mean, before it traumatized me, it did taste pretty good.
Yeah. I'll just stick with the smoothie by itself.
Yeah. Exactly. Take a milkshake. Good old fashioned strawberry milkshake works for me, man.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That actually sounds really good right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna make one after.
I have to travel too far. Unfortunately, I live out in the trees here, and I think the only thing in town we have here locally, Jefferson, is a Mexican restaurant, and I'd have to look. Maybe they have something like that. They probably have some really good desserts. But I'm too cheap, man. I just I'd rather use what I got here. I got candy somewhere.
Yeah, same. It's fucking expensive around here. It's we're on a pretty tight budget too. Like we live with my dad and help him pay the mortgage. We end up buying a place that we've been living in for like 20 years. Our landlord passed away a few years ago, and then his son came down from Oregon and gave us like a 60-day notice to move out.
Oh, shit.
And so that was a pretty rough time. But yeah, we end up fighting back and got the house, but our fucking mortgage is like $4,200 a month right now.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's hard, man. That's really hard.
Yeah. So me and my wife alone are paying about as much as we were all paying for the house for rent, before we bought the place.
Yeah, it's pretty tough these days to buy. Just in general, the mortgage prices are up so high and the approval rates are down so low that it just makes it really difficult, I think, specifically for our generations to get into houses. They're pushing us all into apartments. And I think kind of like what we're doing, I do this. I live at my dad's property, and Andrew lives on his grandparents' property. That's the way of the future, and that's the way it used to be. It's only been that way for a short time, and we've all become broke as a result of not wanting to have help or to help others, because it does work both ways. Like my dad's 72. He needs some help occasionally,
Yeah, my dad just had his third hip replacement, and he was kind of forced into retiring because of his hip. So, the first one was last year on New Year's, and then that got infected, and then they put a replacement one in, and then so he just got that replacement replaced last weekend.
That happens quite a bit, like with all different joint replacements. I know my mom had a knee thing go bad and had to have it replaced 2 or 3 times. Wow. My uncle is currently looking at losing his leg from infection too. So it's kind of sad, you'd think this day and age they're so good at sterile procedure and surgeries that
you would think so, but sometimes the hospitals are really not the cleanest place, and
that's
they
true.
they kind of don't care. Like that's one thing I've really noticed. So like back in 2020, this was also during COVID, but I was really overweight back then. I was like 360 pounds. Now I'm down to 270. But
Nice.
I had cellulitis, and I thought I had COVID at first because I was like really sick and had a fever. And then I finally looked down at my leg. My leg was like completely red, and I still don't know why I got that. I think it's just because I was so obese, and I'm out here, you know, sitting in this chair and making the induction heaters all the time, not getting much movement. So I think it's like poor circulation and stuff like that. But yeah, one thing I've noticed with going to the hospitals back then with my dad, even with my wife, is like they don't give a fuck. You know, like they care as much as they have to care, and there's like almost no communication. So like when my dad, I had to rush him to the hospital when the infection happened the first time. The hospital that we went to where he got the surgery done is about 2 hours away, and so we got there. We left at like 8, got there at like 10. We didn't find out that he's staying there till 4 in the fucking morning. And no one even came and actually told me. It was the nurses like, yeah, I think he might be staying here. It looks like they've ordered a room for him upstairs. It's like, give some people some idea what the fuck is going on.
Right. Communication. You
Yeah.
know, people are worried about their parents, their siblings, you know, being in poor health. And I saw the same thing with my mother. You know, she had cancer, and she was overweight and had the knee surgeries that we were talking about there prior to that too. But what I noticed was it's kind of like a lot of organizations that are big. The people on the ground, the nurses that are directly in contact, they have really good bedside manners, and they would like to be making a difference, but it's a bureaucracy. And ultimately, unless you're there every minute of every day advocating for those people, then stuff like that happens. You know, they have their processes, and they're like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And I know with my mom that I had to stand up and be like, hey, listen, I don't give a shit what you told me she's going to take. She's not taking this. You can give her something else. I hand it physically to her. So you can't make me do it. You know, and ended up like that. And probably like you, advocating for those folks really it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, my dad also has like a bleeding disorder. It's not a hemophiliac, but it's like a hereditary thing called von Willebrand's disease. And on a previous surgery, they had intubated him through the nose, and they didn't really know this. I guess he didn't really tell them or fully explain to them before, but they intubated him through the nose, and they hit a blood vessel pulling the tube out. And so he woke up hemorrhaging. And then later on, he ended up blowing his nose, and I had to take him to the ER. I was on acid, and it was like,
oh no,
again, like around 10 o'clock at night, and then I had to rush him to Berkeley, and which was a good thing because acid keeps me awake, you know. Kind of entertained me while we were waiting for hours to find out what the hell's going on. But he apparently he doesn't really like to like. I don't know if he thinks it's like AIDS or something like that. It's not like that, but he's kind of like a tough old guy. But anyway, he was kind of like talking to nurses in circles when I said he's got a bleeding problem. And then finally, when the doctor came in, he's going to administer something. And I was like, Dad, what is that? What's the thing called that you have? And then so my dad kind of explained it. And the doctor's like, oh, von Willebrand's disease. Well, I can't give you this then.
Right.
You know, so it's good, you know, that you were advocating for your mom, and kind of the same, you know, you got to, you know, stick up for the people that you love and make sure that they know what they're taking and what the doctors know is going on.
Yeah. They're doing what they want, you know, because the standard may not be what people want. And ultimately, although it is to heal us, it is still you're still a customer. You know, and they're still the person you're paying to do a service. Even if it is one that you really don't want to piss them off you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
trying to get your way.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of back to the opioid thing. They really try to push that on my dad to take the not Oxycontin, but Oxy something else.
Oh, the codone.
Oxycodones.
Yeah, like I think
And
that's Vicodin, or the
or not,
generic
it's not
name.
Vicodin, it's a little white pill.
Maybe hydrocodone.
It's got
That's like
oxy
a
in the
pure
name.
form. Oh, Oxycontin.
Oxycontin, yeah.
Yeah, that's the pure form.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I had to advocate with my mom for too. Is they gave her a bunch of things, all of those opioids, but also Ativan. And when they combine that in there, like you forget everything. It's like you're all of a sudden you're a dementia patient, and
Yep.
life is just hell. You know,
Yep.
like she wouldn't have been able to have told them even that she felt bad because she didn't know. She forgot. Like that. So, and that's standard process. But again, that was relative to her situation and not typical.
Yeah.
That was when she was on hospice. So that they have free reign. Then they literally wrote her a prescription one time for like 800 of those oxycodone pills or oxycontin pills.
Wow.
And she was just trying it. Like, oh yeah, here's an open-ended prescription. It's like, all right, well, just because someone's in that state physically doesn't mean you have to pile it on and make it come on quicker. Like,
yeah. And that's another thing about doctors too is, although there is science behind it, nothing about what they're doing is completely exact science. It's all a guessing game.
Yeah, we're all different.
It's like, well, this is what I learned in school. Is usually this with this means this, but in rare occasions, it could be that, but I don't know. Let's run some tests and guess some more. Like my mom's a nurse practitioner, and she could never give me a fucking straight answer. So, and she always tells me, go see a doctor. I'm like, that's what I'm talking to you for.
Right.
Well, yeah, them narrowing down a disease is much like us narrowing down where our contamination came from. You're never going to be 100% sure, but you can follow each step. Okay, okay, their blood sugar's good. You can go here, here, and here.
Yep.
So you're completely right. It is a guessing game, a lot of it. All we can do is eliminate variables.
Yep.
Yeah. I know. I'm with you. I keep trying, but every time I go to the doctor, I get poorer results, especially as you get older. There's a lot more things that they can be like, hey, well, this is just arthritis, or you're just getting old. It's like,
yeah,
all right, dude, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you completely cut out like bread and all that?
Yeah. And in fact, I lost a bunch of weight from that too. I was about 250 pounds. After mom passed, I ate a lot. I think probably throughout most of my life, it was around 230, 200. And now I'm down to 190.
Nice.
But just because I can't eat things with wheat.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised what things have it and what don't.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there's more to it too. Like I know a guy that was talking about being allergic to dyes in food and having just this phantom health problem. You do too as well, Andrew? Yeah. Okay. Well, so it's a big thing, and I think it's highly underreported.
Yeah.
And like he had the same issues like I did with the eating wheat, where he felt like he was just dying on a daily basis inside. His body was shutting down. And cutting those things out of his life and his family's life improved it, 300x. Because
when I was doing kind of like carnivore and then got into keto, I definitely lost quite a bit of weight and then felt a lot better too. It's kind of crazy, kind of once you go down that rabbit hole of like, knowing what we've been told and then what's good for you and the food pyramid and all that. And then kind of getting into the science of the other stuff that like, if you kind of eat like your ancestors, where your real ancestors came from,
right?
There wasn't sweet stuff. There really wasn't bread. I mean, there may have been bread, but it's not over processed like everything.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah, and more
definitely no
likely it
food
was just
dyes.
hard pack and stuff like that.
Yeah, it mainly meat and fats and stuff.
Yeah. Forage, what you can forage or hunt.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're meant to have a diverse diet, I think. I think anything in excess is not good for us, but sugar is prevalent everywhere. Like, I mean, everything that you eat. What did I see the other day? That white bread has like 2 tablespoons of sugar in it in each slice. Each slice.
American white bread.
Yeah.
But like my sister-in-law, she's from overseas and from a nation where they make bread daily and eat fresh, good stuff. And she said when she moved here, she could not believe that we would leave bread sitting out for so long. That like that fresh bread that they eat all the time that is actually good for you, you eat it within 24 hours, typically 24 to 48, or it goes bad. And there's a reason for that.
Same thing with like the pastas and stuff in like Italy and stuff. It's all real food. You're not going to get diabetes eating that all the time.
Yeah, I know. We sit here on our soapboxes and think, oh well, these guys are sitting there eating pasta and carbs all day, and but they've actually got a lot better ingredients, and they still cook everything. Well, I can't say everything, but a lot of it is still cooked from scratch from the very beginning, where even the sauces and the flours and whatnot are made from fresh grain and fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
I think we got to get away from this working to pay to live and start living, to feed ourselves and to enjoy our lives. And it's a hard pivot, but I think a lot of us are trying it.
Yeah.
And we all have the tools too. A lot of folks don't know that their sterilizer, their Presto sterilizer, is actually a canner.
Yeah.
It's made for preserving food.
Yeah.
And it's very, very useful.
Yeah, I've kind of been thinking about that. As crazier things keep happening in the world, you never know what's going to be next, and like, I've always kind of been in conspiracy theories, and a lot of them kind of end up being true,
especially these days.
our government's not really out there to help us. They're lying about so much stuff. But what's that movie that the Obamas had a part in making? Oh, Leave This Planet or something, or Leave This Place?
Oh, I don't know if I saw that. I think is that the Netflix one we were talking about the other day?
Yeah, man. Watch that when you get a chance, and then keep in mind that the Obamas helped create this movie. And then think about, have you heard that Zuckerberg is building a big compound under his mansion in Hawaii?
No, that's crazy. It doesn't surprise me, but I've not heard it.
And then supposedly there's other rich people building huge bunkers in New Zealand and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. You never know what's going to happen. I feel like a lot of movies and TV shows are maybe kind of like setting the pace, like of this.
Right.
Better get ready.
Kind of like the chicken and the egg thing. People have always asked that question: is the book or is the story prophetic, or is it that we all read it and we made the shit happen because we all read into it so heavily? Yeah. But if you haven't seen that movie on Netflix, if it's the same one we're talking about, essentially it's showing that the U.S. is primed for civil unrest of unimaginable magnitude simply by removing our ability to communicate. And it's true because there's so much strife between people of all different reasons. I mean, you could have a million different reasons to dislike somebody on first contact these days, and so it just really plays into how volatile we are and how
it's very polarized right now.
Yeah. And, I really hope, and I think that the community we're in helps to bridge some of those gaps and does allow us to dissolve our ego to some degree and come together, because really there's not a lot of people that are trying to come together right now. It's more the opposite.
Yeah, the nice thing about the majority of the community is we don't really, your race, gender, beliefs are not really a part of anything. Like, some people want to say something, you know, some people are a little more this way or that way on stuff, and they kind of make some posts, but for the most part it's like we're not here for that, you know. It's like I want to see what you're working on, or you know, like if you got a cool business, you know, or something like that. It's like keeping everything more of a positive direction, which is kind of where everything needs to be. I remember when I was a kid, like I'm about to be 37, but I remember back in like the 90s, no one was talking about who they're voting for.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like a household discussion. It wasn't so polarized. It's more just like there's the Democrats and then there's Republicans. And at that time, it just seemed like the Republicans were more like the Christian side of politics, and the Democrats are more of on the side of social justice or something like that. At least that's what it seems like.
I think back then it was kind of like you're supporting the, I don't know if you want to call them atheists, but like folks that would make alternate decisions than what the standard was in the US. You know, the standard was you were Christian, Catholic, or whatever, you know, XYZ. And you know, I honestly, like, when I grew up, and I don't know if it was specifically to the time and where I was at, I didn't see a lot of that stuff. I didn't see racism or any sort of bias until I was an adult and people started telling me that's how it was. You know, people were people. We hung out with everybody. We got high with everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody really noticed. In fact, we said things that were racist, things that now today, if you said them, would be very racist and you'd get in trouble for it. But back then were just turns of phrase, and we had no idea. Yeah. And, you know, then you get out there in the real world and start saying things and you're ignorant, and people correct you on it because you get in the wrong place, and those things are very bad insults, you know.
Yeah.
And you may not have any clue, and you're just, you know, talking in local idioms and think of everybody as a friend or a brother or sister, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think I kind of came from the opposite. Like from a very young age, I saw it going on. I'm in the South. So you can kind of take a guess. It went on rampantly around me. But when I saw people acting that way from a young age, I never noticed any intelligent people doing it.
Right.
And so I was just kind of like, oh, I don't want to emulate those people. Even from a young age, before I fully understood it, I was just like, those people sound stupid.
Yeah. It really is. Anyone that wants to hate on someone just for what they're born as, you know, like whether you're white, black, or whatever, like you can't change who you are, you know.
Right.
Some people believe you can change who you are, but that's not true either.
Right.
But it was kind of like what Matt was saying. It was, you know, like I had friends of all different kinds growing up. And then also grew up, I may have Native American blood. You know, my grandpa was raised on a reservation, and you could definitely tell that his father looked Native. But I haven't got my own DNA testing done. But my mom ended up moving us up to a reservation in Alaska. And second week of school, dude wants to get in a fight with me because I was white, and I'm like, bro, I'm like darker than you. Like, what are you talking about? And it was funny because this black chick from I think she was from New York. Her and her brother were going to school there. She's like, oh, don't fuck with him. He's from Cali. He's gonna fuck you up. And coming to find out though that there was only 4 main families on this island, and there was so the dude that wanted to fight me, his girlfriend, apparently I looked at her funny, and she had a miscarriage that morning because they were first cousins.
Oh no.
And that's what he was really upset about, and took it out on me because I was an outsider. And then I moved back down to the Bay Area, and all my friends in the old town I used to grow up in kind of started hanging out with all the old Peckerwoods, you know, all the white people that have been to jail and stuff like that. And so we used to all hang out and be fucking retarded, you know. So like when I went to Alaska, I was like, well, I guess I'm not Native anymore. and then I ended up falling in line with them and was a bit of an asshole, you know, kind of fell into that crowd, got a little deeper into it, got into drugs and stuff like that, but then realized like these motherfuckers are stupid and they're going around, you know, saying stuff, but then they're blasting rap music. Like you can't
Right.
you can't be a white
Contradiction.
supremacist and blast rap music at the same time. Like that just doesn't make any sense. Like that's like an oxymoron. So I realized that they're morons. I was like, and I don't really have it in me to just have this disdain for no reason. Like I'm on a personal basis. Like if I have an interaction with somebody and I don't like you, then I don't like you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've been ripped off by more of my white friends than I ever have any other races that I've noticed. And also like I'm a lot of Greek too, so I'm kind of realizing I'm probably a lot more Middle Eastern than I ever thought I was.
Interesting.
Yeah, never really
surprising. Huh?
Yeah.
I know, especially since I've lost my hair, you know, like I appear especially pasty. But really, I am the 16th native, and like my dad, he looks almost like he's half, and he's only an eighth, and he's very dark. And if you get my side profile there, you can kind of see I've got the genes of the nose. We were Chickasaw, which is actually kind of down there by Georgia, as a matter of fact.
Wow, what a trip!
We were what'd they call them? What were the guys from 300? The Spartans. Yeah, supposedly they were like the Spartans of the natives in that area.
Okay.
That would make sense because I do have a temper despite my pleasant composure on here, and I love being out in the woods and hunting and fishing and just in plain being miserable.
Yeah,
I'm half Italian, half redneck mutt. So
right, yeah. That's the thing, you know, is we're all American, you know, we're all mostly mixed, and
we are so
our
mixed.
Opinions don't fit anywhere, you know.
Right.
Like, it's so interesting to me when I see folks looking to polarize things, you know, in an era where now we're looking to have many more options for everything, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see. Well, yeah, no, you either have to be right or left. It's like no. I'm in that gray zone.
I've kind of realized I thought I was more on the Democratic side, but I find myself more in the middle-leaning conservative. I don't consider myself a Republican in any way. I'm not religious. I don't believe a lot of their views on a lot of things, but I also don't believe a lot of the views on the left right now either. So I'm a little bit in the middle, and I have a little bit more conservative values, you could say.
Yeah, it's tough these days because, you know, there's so many definitions for each grouping, you know, like if you look at someone's definition of what a liberal is, that may not be what someone else is. I've always, until recently, considered myself pretty liberal, you know, because of the fact that I really don't care who someone is in any form, you know, and of late you get pegged with having one or two viewpoints that fall onto one side or the other, and you know, I just tend not to express it too much, honestly.
Yeah.
From what it sounds like to me, there is actually a definition for what you gentlemen are talking about. And the division in that actual basis is you are socially liberal, but you are fiscally conservative. So when it comes to money policies and stuff like that, typically you want to have, and I'm the same way. I agree with you as well. You typically have more laws that are conservative. Let's not waste money where we don't have to. Let's not get the government involved where we don't have to. That kind of thing. But you also, at the same time, want people to have civil rights and not be mistreated for who they are. That's the difference. You're fiscally conservative and socially liberal. See, it's an extra division, an extra, you know.
Yeah, it just sounds like freedom to me. You know, being able to do what you want without directly hurting others by your actions. You know, like you can't sacrifice someone else's safety and security for your own.
Right.
It's got to
Exactly.
all be the same. But I think the world we live in, the thing that we should all be on the same page with is that we got to get everybody that's in office out of office and get some new people with better perspective in there, and put some term limits in for everyone.
I feel like the Congress people are kind of like vampires, some of them are so old, there's like they don't die.
Right,
like
right.
Whatever those parties that they're going to and drinking the adrenochrome.
You watch South Park ever? You see when they have the episode, the stem cell episode, and they're the people taking the discarded fetuses and sucking out the stem cells. Yeah, that's kind of what I picture these days. Like they're just gonna live to be 150 and still be senators and representatives,
Yeah.
But who knows? Anyhow, we're over our hour, so I'll probably tidy things up here, and I think it's been really fun. I think
it's good hanging out with you guys. It's good to meet you guys.
Got into hanging out and made it just a fun time, and that's what we're about. So I really appreciate you coming on, Sean.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you,
Farley. Nice to meet you, Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you for having us on, and keep in contact, my friend.
Yeah, sounds good.
Make sure you check us out each week. We'll have some exciting guests. Check us out Saturdays, released first thing in the morning at 12 a.m. You can watch us anytime thereafter.